Welcome back to Face the Nation. With control of Congress up for grabs next Tuesday, we want to take a look at where things stand in some key Senate races. Here with us is CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto, and he has some new battleground tracker numbers on hand. Anthony, welcome. Remind us again, update us on exactly what's at stake in the Senate, and then tell us what you found in these new numbers.
Right. Well, the Republicans have a two-seat majority in the Senate that they're trying to hold on to, and they have what we call a favorable map, which means that of the states where Senate races are up this year, the Democrats are defending more, and many of them are defending seats in states that Donald Trump won last time around. So we call them red states. They're Republican-leaning. That makes it rather hard for them. Let me start with a couple of states that I think will tell the story, at least early on election night when we watch it next week. The first is Florida. And that race we have tied between Rick Scott and the incumbent Democrat, Bill Nelson. You know, Scott seems to get a boost from his handling of the recent hurricane there. That may be helping him out. Then we go to Indiana, where we've got the Republican up 3 points. It's a slight lead over the incumbent Democrat, Joe Donnelly. That's a seat that the Republicans would love to try to pick up. And if they can, it really helps their chances. And then out to Arizona. That's an open seat. It's another state that Donald Trump won, where we have Kristen Sinema up 3 points over Martha McSally. That's a quick view of the landscape in three key races.
So let's Florida, purple state. We always watch Florida, so and that's split, and so that kind of follows what we know on Indiana, Arizona. Tell me, what's the difference between the Democrats being ahead in Arizona, which has had two Republican senators, whereas Indiana, you've got an incumbent Democrat, but he's behind. Is there a difference between those two states?
Yeah, one is just a little bit of crossover voting, where Sinema is getting just a little bit more of that Republican crossover vote than Joe Donnelly is. Now, this is important because we see so very little of that these days. And in fact, in all of these states, we see much less of it than we did the last time Democrats won in these red states. That partly tells you what a partisan environment this is. It tells you that this election is nationalized, that 3 in 4 voters are saying that they're casting a vote for Senate or Congress this year to put their favored national party in control of Congress. Having said all that, Sinema is doing a little bit better on health care, which is something certainly the Democrats want this election to be about. Donnelly is not benefiting from what some folks thought would be a backlash against the president's trade policy. In a heavily agricultural state, Republicans in particular and voters overall tend to think that those trade policies will eventually pan out and help them in the long run.
Let's talk about that nationalized election, because Donald Trump, when you see him on the campaign trail, thinks that this is going to be an election about values, and he's returned to a lot of the themes from 2016, immigration, safety, even talking about socialism. Democrats, on the other hand, have a different bet that they're making. As you said, in Arizona, the Democrat running is talking about health care. Who's right?
Well, look, it depends on whoever wins is probably going to end up being the one that we think is right. But look, the Democrats want this to be about health care because people do see them as being better off at handling Medicare. And also, they don't necessarily buy the idea, the Republicans, that they'll protect pre-existing conditions in particular. The Republicans aren't polling well on doing that. The Democrats are polling better on that. And that's something that people want. So it's no accident the Democrats are running on that. As far as larger values is concerned, I think that you've got a situation where in this very nationalized election, the president becomes a large factor. And we see a big split between people who say the economy is good but don't like the direction of the country. And in a lot of these states, the percent of people who say that the president is going to be a factor in their vote is far higher than we've seen in recent midterms. And that could be an enormous factor there as part of nationalizing all of this.
We talk about tribalism, which has become a kind of a jargon word. How do you see it in the polls playing out in terms of what's different than what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, after a week like this, so much talk about anger, so much talk, as you say, about tribalism. It's something we pollsters try to wrestle with and try to capture. One way we do it is we've asked people, well, the other side, are they people who disagree with you about policy, or are they fundamentally different kinds of people? And we're seeing a majority of partisans here saying the second of those, that they think they're fundamentally different kinds of people. That's hard to negotiate. It becomes personal. It's hard to adjudicate that. The other thing is we look at the groups that people feel like are represented by the parties. We see the Republicans saying the Democrats care more about the interests of immigrants than longer-term citizens. We see the Democrats saying they think the Republicans care more about the wealthy than working people. It comes down to those group politics, and again, it becomes a very personal cast to the whole election.
And it's not just different kinds of people, but bad people, right? They have a very negative personal feeling about people in the other party.
It's what we often call negative partisanship. It's not just the idea that your party is right, and maybe it even isn't, but you sure do think the other side is wrong.
All right, Anthony Salvanto, thanks so much.